It's time for Nicole Sandler's What's News from NicoleSandler.com and the Progressive Voices Network.
On Thursday, the con man in the Oval Office got his wish. Trumpcare 2.0 passed the House of Representatives by the slimmest of margins. They needed 216 votes to pass. The final tally was 217 to 214, with all the Democrats voting no, 20 Republicans going along with the Dems, and the rest voting to remove more than 24 million Americans from the healthcare rolls. Actually, they voted in favor of this bill before the CBO scored it, so they really don't know how much it'll cost or how many people will be hurt. They just wanted a win. In the long term, it may be those who voted for this crap sandwich that are hurt. Once they passed the 216 mark, a song broke out on the House floor. Some people thought it was the Republicans celebrating. But believing that many of those Republicans just voted away their congressional seats was enough to get the Democrats to raise their voices in song. Following the passage, the White House field trip buses rolled out again, this time to take those members who voted for the horror show of a bill to celebrate at a Rose Garden event. So it was Dump in the Rose Garden with a bunch of overwhelmingly white men around him behind the podium spouting venom and lies. That's a Clue murder scene, right?
Nobody got to use their current plan.
Wrong.
This non-existent plan that I heard so many wonderful things about over the last 3 or 4 days after that. I mean, I don't think you're going to hear so much right now. The insurance companies are fleeing. It's been a catastrophe, and this is a great plan. I actually think it will get even better, and this is, make no mistake, this is a repeal and a replace of Obamacare. Make no mistake about it. Make no mistake.
Yes, make no mistake. We've already made enough for today.
And I think most importantly, yes, premiums will be coming down. Yes, deductibles will be coming down. But very importantly, it's a great plan.
Wrong.
And ultimately, that's what it's all about. We knew that wasn't going to work. I predicted it a long time ago. I said it's failing. And now it's obvious that it's failing. It's dead. It's essentially dead. If we don't pay lots of ransom money over to the insurance companies, it would die immediately. So what we have is something very, very incredibly well-crafted.
Have you ever seen a Rose Garden ceremony for a bill that passed one chamber?
We were talking about that. I can't think of one. I don't know if you can think of one. I can't think of one.
Well, there's a first time for everything, I suppose. But they really had no cause for celebration. Right, Stephen?
So they did it. Obamacare is finally officially dead, is something they can say once the bill goes to the Senate, then gets out of committee, is debated on the floor where amendments can be added, then the Senate votes on their bill, which is sent to conference committee where the differences between the two bills are ironed out, then voted on in the House and Senate again, then sent to the White House for the president to sign. Which is why Republicans were chanting, "We're number one," third of the way through a very complex process.
Let's bring it down to a level Don the Con might understand.
I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Well, it's a long, long journey to the capital city. It's a long, long wait while I'm sitting in committee. But I know I'll be a law someday. At least I hope and pray that I will. But today I am still just a bill.
And its chances of passing through the Senate aren't very good, for a lot of reasons.
If all of this seems extreme, don't worry. Some members of Congress are telling journalists that the bill's controversial provisions aren't a big deal because, quote, no state would be crazy enough to actually ask for them. Have you met Florida? Right there on their state seal. Crazy enough.
Dump's Thursday continued with his first trip back to New York City since taking the oath of office. He went to the intrepid Air and Sea Museum, where he hosted an event with the Australian Prime Minister, where the orange one let slip a healthcare truth.
Could get maybe even better. It's a very good bill right now. The premiums are going to come down very substantially. The deductibles are going to come down. It's going to be fantastic health care. Right now, Obamacare is failing. We have a failing health care. I shouldn't say this, too. our great gentleman and my friend from Australia, because you have better health care than we do.
They do have. They have universal health. I know. I thought you would.
Okay. Wait a minute, Chris. All right. The president has just said it. That's great. Let's take a look at the Australian healthcare system. And let's move. Maybe let's take a look at the Canadian health system or systems throughout Europe. Thank you, Mr. President. Let us move to a Medicare for all system that does what every other major country on earth does, guarantee health care to all people at a fraction of the cost per capita that we spend. Thank you, Mr. President. We'll quote you on the floor of the Senate.
You tell him, Bernie.
I got good news.
If you appreciate these What's News segments and the Nicole Sandler Show, I hope you'll consider making a contribution. We are 100% listener supported, and we can't do it without you. Please visit NicoleSandler.com/donate for more information.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Feliz Cinco de Mayo, bastardos!
You know, girls, it's great to live in a democracy today.
Yes.
Where freedom is everywhere.
Everywhere.
But girls, we often take this freedom for granted.
Yes.
Freedom of speech.
That.
Freedom of thought.
What?
And freedom of action.
And giving birth.
But you know, gals, just because a bunch of men signed that Declaration of Independence in 1776 doesn't mean that freedom was for men alone.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. You take Tom Jefferson.
Okay.
Ben Franklin.
You know.
John Hancock. There's a hell of a guy for you right there.
Adorable.
All these men had wives.
Yes.
They probably had a few broads on the side, too. These women wanted freedom just as much as their men did.
Yes.
But gals, I wonder, do we? I think it's time that we women thought about it a bit.
Okay.
Hell, I think it's time we did something about it.
Oh, hell.
So come on, fellow females of the 20th century.
21st.
Be glad that you're an American.
I'm glad.
Proclaim your freedom.
Freedom.
And attention.
Oh.
Pledge allegiance.
Allegiance.
And
Cinco de Mayo, bastardos! Hey, time for Trump to eat a taco bowl or something in New Jersey's in Bedminster, New Jersey this weekend to celebrate the Cinco de Mayo. I don't know what he'll do as long as he doesn't call ICE and start rounding people up and just simply tweets out some photo of him eating some damn taco bowl. I'll be all right with it. God, can you believe that this is what we have to hope for with this guy? That all he does is tweet an offensive image of what being Mexican is? Really, that's the best you can do. That's the best we can hope for. That's what I'm hoping for this weekend. At least we're not under nuclear, global, disaster, mass assured destruction madness weekend. At least I haven't heard anything about it. It's not in the news this week. Not in the news this week because this week they were very busy betraying everything he promised, everything he ever said on the campaign trail with regard to your fabulous, beautiful, perfect plan where it was going to cost you less and it was going to do more and it would be so easy. It's so easy. You just can't not do it. He said he'd never cut Medicare. He did. He said he'd never cut Medicaid. Oh, God. $880 billion out of the Medicaid program. That's a cut. Got to tell you, that's a freaking cut. Said he wouldn't do that. Said he wouldn't touch Social Security. Hang on to your pantaloons, everybody, because that's next. And what have I been telling you for years? That the Republicans want the last large tranches of cash. And what are those last large tranches? They're things that we paid into because the money is really there. It's real money. Real treasury notes, real taxes get really collected and we really make the deposit and really that money is real and it's really, really there. And that's why they want these things so bad. So here's every promise he made on our health care.
Every Republican wants to do a big number on Social Security.
Told you.
They want to do it on Medicare. They want to do it on Medicaid. And we can't do that. And it's not fair to the people that have been paying in for years, and now all of a sudden they want to be cut. And I'm not going to cut Medicare or Medicaid. Every other Republican's going to cut. And even if they wouldn't, they don't know what to do because they don't know where the money is. I do.
He knows where our money is.
Save Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security without cuts. Have to do it. And then we have to take care of the people that can't take care of themselves, and I will do that through a different system. Everybody's got to be covered. This is an un-Republican thing for me to say, because a lot of times they say, no, the lower 25%, they can't afford private. But universal health care. I am going to take care of everybody. I don't care if it costs me votes or not.
By some estimates, 10 million people could lose their coverage. Is that acceptable to you?
Look, what matters is that we're lowering the cost of health care and giving people access to affordable health care plans.
Kind of a hard sell to say, yeah, we're going to repeal Obamacare, but we're going to send more money to the people who've already gotten the richest over the last 10 years. I mean, that's what this does, no? I'm not a leftist, it's just that's true.
I'm not that concerned about it because we said we were going to repeal all the Obamacare taxes. This is one of the Obamacare taxes.
The goal of health care reform is people get access to affordable coverage. Universal access. This is part of replacing Obamacare with a system that works to give everybody universal access to affordable coverage.
It's not just about coverage. It's about access to care. It's about access to be able to see your doctors.
You're worried about giving people coverage. And it's almost as if
the president said he wanted.
You must reject this bill before us now. It is what Trumpcare. Here's what it means for the American people. You know, much has been said about policy here today and over time. Much has been said about politics. What are the politics of this? What's really important is what this means to the American people. And they know. They are listening. They know what it means to them. And it means, Trumpcare does, it forces families to pay higher premiums and deductibles, increasing out-of-pocket costs. Higher cost, less coverage. Trumpcare will take away health care from more than 24 million hardworking Americans.
Yes, that's all true, but that's not what he said he was going to do. It's not the promise we got. It wasn't anything to do with what he was saying on CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network. It's not anything that he said when he was running for president. And, by the way, I must remind you what Republicans said. This is like the best ever. Republicans said when we were trying to pass Obamacare that it was being rammed through. Now, of course, it took 17 long months. This took them less than 48 hours. Nobody has read the bill in the Republican House. They all admitted that yesterday, didn't they? You saw that. I can play you those people, too. Collins said he didn't read it. A whole bunch of people said they didn't read it. So they didn't know what was in it. And maybe that's going to be their excuse. I don't know. But when Boner was the Speaker of the House, do you remember his hell no moment?
And look at how this bill was written. Can you say it was done openly? With transparency and accountability? Without backroom deals and struck behind closed doors? Hidden from the people? Hell no, you can't! Have you read the bill? Have you read the reconciliation bill? Have you read the manager's amendment? Hell no, you haven't.
They're saying yes, and he's going, hell no, you haven't read it. This is going to be our defense here. We 17 months is not long enough to read it. We did not. Hey, why are you saying yes? You read it. Say no.
Hell no, you can't.
Everyone remembers this, right? Right?
Have you read the bill? Have you read the reconciliation bill? Have you read the manager's amendment? Hell no, you haven't.
Oops. Maybe he should have, told the peanut gallery what the point of his floor speech was going to be before he asked them the questions. You know, any good lawyer knows you never ask a question you don't know the answer to. An idiot boy, Boner, was up there trying to lead his caucus into following his, his shout and repeat, and they're yelling, have you read the bill? Yes. Have you seen the bill? Yes. Did you read the manager's amendment? Yes. Hell no. You didn't. No, he should have had a little conversation. But you know what? Very few people have read this bill. Almost everybody said that they haven't read it. This went through in 48 hours? And maybe, like I said, maybe this will be their excuse. I'm not really sure, but
actual legislation, the language in this bill, including the 2 amendments that were added to it, that we only saw that language in the past 24 hours.
Really?
Did you actually sit down and read the entire bill plus all of the amendments?
I will fully admit, Wolf, I did not, but I can.
There's a ton of them like this. They're all going to say, but my staff did. And you know what? That's the truth. That's what happened. You have legislative assistants in the office that read through this most gripping reading legislation. Oh, it's the most gripping. And, when you look at it, and yesterday, nobody had seen it. And that was crazy. That was really sick. This was the first time in all my years of covering Capitol Hill legislation, pieces of mung that are, thrown at the wall to see what sticks, appropriations, continuing resolutions, whatever. All this stuff, right? I have never in my life, in my entire broadcast career, seen a bill that was not scored by CBO first, or that you were able to at least spend a day looking at and figuring out what is in it. And the only thing that you could see yesterday was some amendment that simply said, we're striking section 1342, paragraph 2B in the following piece of legislation. And that was it. That was all that was released. And you didn't even know what 132B section 2 was because they didn't really. It was the sickest day I've ever seen in my life, and yet they voted on it. They hadn't read it. Nobody knew what was in it. They voted for it anyway. And you know why? Because they spent the last 7 years saying they would vote. That's why. And so they decided to vote for something that they had no idea what was in it, all just so that they could kick it over to the Senate and let them deal with it. And by the way, the good news is it is dead on arrival in the Senate. There is no way that this ridiculous destruction of the Affordable Care Act is going to fly. The Senate isn't even going to take up what passed the House. The Senate's going to write its own bill starting from scratch. That's what it said. They are not going to, and this is going to be months and months down the road, which means thanks to the idiots in the House, thanks to the Paul Ryans, thanks to the Donald Trumps of the world, thanks to the MacArthurs, thanks to the lunatic Upton and Billy Long. Have you seen Billy Long? Do you know what Billy Long looks like? He's not long. He's wide. He's a double wide, this guy. Billy Long needs to turn himself into Jenny Craig, except I will say this. Jenny Craig would consider him a walking pre-existing condition. I mean, there is just no chance that they wouldn't take. So, you know what? Go to RandyRhodes.com, go to the homework section, and there's a clickable link in the, we always write like what we're going to talk about today. And I put clickable links in there so you could see what I'm relying on to make these sentences happen. Unlike Breitbart. And you'll see there's a clickable link on what Billy Long looks like. Now, if take a look at Billy Long, and you tell me him and his fatty friends wouldn't have a 30% increase in their premium under this stupid bill that he voted for yesterday had the House not been exempted from its own provisions. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty unbelievable. It's really bad. But Billy Long is the perfect face for this health care bill. Because if it wasn't for pre-existing condition coverage, Billy Long wouldn't be with us.
Clear for takeoff.
The Randi Rhodes Air Force. Air Force. RandyRhodes.com. For a commercial-free, on-demand, whenever, wherever listening experience, visit RandyRhodes.com for your personal premium podcast today.
Buy a stinking podcast. Well, it's clear that something's very, very wrong with the nation's economy. It's experiencing anemic growth. Our middle class is shrinking. Retirees are facing nationwide pension crises, with many pensions being underfunded and headed toward insolvency. The stock market's super volatile, and many experts say it's way overpriced. The Trump administration is MIA with their amazing economic plan for America. So how are you feeling about your economic security? Call my friends at ITM Trading. Just speak with one of their precious metals experts about gold and find out why now is the perfect time for gold. Learn why gold survives every government, every currency, every economic crisis. Call ITM Trading today at 1-888-OWN-GOLD and they'll send you a free gold buyer's guide. They've helped tens of thousands of people acquire physical gold and silver, and they can help you too. Call 1-888-OWN-GOLD, 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 1-888-OWN-GOLD.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1886. That was the day Wisconsin state militia shot down workers striking for the 8-hour day in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, killing 7. It's known as the Bayview Massacre. As cities across America erupted into strikes for the 8-hour day, municipal workers in Milwaukee had already won shorter working hours. Many private employers had followed suit. The Central Labor Union and the Knights of Labor mobilized thousands in the campaign to bring the rest of the city's employers into line. Building tradesmen joined Polish, German, and Native American laborers in strikes and marches across the city for nearly a week. They marched to area factories, calling out to workers to join the strike. By May 3rd, every factory in town was shut down except for the Milwaukee Iron Company rolling mill in Bayview. Workers marched to the mills and demanded workers join them. At this point, Governor Rusk called out the militia. They formed a line just inside the gate to prevent strikers from reaching mill workers. As the events of Haymarket unfolded in Chicago that evening, area businessmen became increasingly fearful of upheaval brewing in the city. Governor Rusk gave the shoot-to-kill order should any striker attempt to enter the mills. The next morning, as 1,500 strikers marched toward the mill, they were fired upon by militia. 7 were killed, many more injured. Strikes for the 8-hour day ended abruptly. Many union leaders were indicted, and Polish workers were practically blacklisted from working in the city for their radicalism. Though the massacres shattered hopes for the 8-hour day, Milwaukeeans responded by electing populists and socialists in local and regional elections for years to come. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com, like us on Facebook, and follow us on the Twitters at Labor History in 2.
To speak to Randy, call now, you bastards. 561-270-3844.
Hello.
The Randi Rhodes Air Force.
World and only being a politician for a short period of time. How am I doing? Am I doing okay? I'm president. Hey, I'm president. Can you believe it, right?
No one can believe it. He can't even believe it. Absolutely no one can believe that this man is president. This was them partying yesterday. Did you see all those white guys standing around? It looked like some sort of a men's club circa 1902. And they were celebrating, the downtrodden getting trotted. It's unbelievable. $880 billion cuts to Medicaid. What a betrayal. What a betrayal. I can't. It takes, essentially, this bill takes $1 trillion away from health care for the American people. And that money will then go to wealthy tax cuts. The wealthiest people will get tax cuts. In fact, in order to pay for all this, they already started the transfer of wealth. People, over $200,000 a year don't pay into the Medicare Trust Fund anymore. Well, that ended, and they made them pay, like another 2% or something like that goes away. So they already got their tax break. I mean, there's so many things in this bill that are just so sick. It's just so sick. And why did this start in the first place? Why? Because the Republicans sought to solve a problem that they had in their heads. And they created a problem. Actually, the Senate, they created a problem in 2015. They created a problem when they stopped paying those risk corridor payments. And the simple fix for what ails us, the simple fix for Obamacare, is to appropriate the damn money for the risk corridor payments. That would do it. That would lower premiums. It wouldn't do anything to change the essential benefits plan that even people who get their health insurance from their employers enjoy. That goes away, by the way. There's this one little tricky thing you should know about if you get your health care through your employer. Oh, it's just unbelievable. If, let's say, you live in a state that there's this little out for any state that wants to match what another state is doing. It can, according to this piece of swill, so that, let's say, Iowa decides that it doesn't want to offer essential benefits anymore in any health care plans in the state of Iowa. Well, let's say you live, I don't know, in Michigan or Florida or any other place, and the governor says, well, I want to compete with the plans that they have offering, that they're offering in Iowa. All of a sudden, he can adopt that, and then your employer health insurance can have lifetime caps placed on it. Your employer-provided health insurance, your employer now can compete for the lowest common denominator, right? They can go and they can take away the essential benefits. They can put lifetime caps. They can put yearly payout limits, $75,000 for instance for the yearly payout. They could do all kinds of things. So this affects every damn body, not just me, not just the people that buy our health insurance off the exchange because we're small business owners or we're individuals or whatever. Whatever forces you into those exchanges. But the thing that ails us, I mean, this thing was so sloppily drafted, and that is the problem with it. It was so sloppily drafted that employer-based health plans might be permitted to impose annual spending limits, lifetime coverage limits, even if most states attempted to keep strong market protections in place. And don't forget that most of this bill is unchanged from March, so you can look at the CBO estimate for certain costs and for certain activities that will occur in this bill. And yes, it's still 24 million people will, 24 million fewer people will have health insurance. 14 million will lose their health insurance by 2018. Why? Why that number? Most of them will be losing their coverage from Medicaid coverage, which is already so skimpy. And then they say, well, people have Medicaid, but they can't find a doctor to take it. That's because there's so much administrative cost associated with taking a Medicaid patient, and the reimbursements are so low, and now they'll be even lower, and there'll be even more paperwork involved, and they stopped the expansion of Medicaid. No more expansion, no more newcomers. So let's say you're newly poor. You better get your application in before this thing goes into effect, and because. Well, it won't go into effect. That's the good news. But, I mean, they want to roll back the Medicaid expansion for the near poor, for the disabled among us, for the elderly that get there. Nursing homes are paid for not through Medicare, but through Medicaid. I don't know why there is that difference, but there is that difference. It has to do with sloppy writing. And this all happened because Republicans tried to solve a problem that didn't exist with the passage of Obamacare, and then created the risk corridor problem in 2015 and stiffed. You know how they say, the Aetna's pulling out of Virginia, and in Iowa, only 94 counties have, 94 counties about to lose any health care provider. That's because they stiffed them on the risk corridor payments. And there have been 3 lawsuits already that have been brought, and different courts are finding different things. It's really interesting. I thought, let me see what happens when an insurance company gets stiffed. And of course, I found 3 different lawsuits. One judge ruled, there's really no contractual obligation for the government to pay you, even though they said they would. There's no implicit contract because, and this was a plain meaning judge like Neil Gorsuch, who said because Congress failed to appropriate the money, there's no contract. Because usually when they leave out the money, it's because they never intended to pay you. And that's what one court found and threw out their claim. And then there's 2 other cases that are still winding their way through the court. But it looks as if they say, no, there is an implicit contract. So we have all these different opinions about these risk corridors. But all you have to do if you want to fix this mess is just make sure that Congress appropriates the money for the risk corridors and everything is done. Period. End of story. That's the fix. And everybody that grapples with this issue fails to tell it to you. They fail to let you know that it is a simple appropriations that must take place, because that is why Aetna pulled out. That's why United pulled out. That's why all these health insurance companies that were promised these risk corridor payments, they got 12% of the total payment promised, and they couldn't continue to offer health insurance to all comers because they were getting a lot of people with pre-existing conditions. So when they tell you they've taken care of pre-existing conditions and it's going to cost you less, just know what they did was they made healthcare worthless. They're not providing insurance. They're providing the illusion of insurance in this particular piece of crap bill. It's like access. Well, you can walk into a BMW showroom anytime you want, but you're not driving away with anything, are you? That's what access means. You get what you pay for, and this plan doesn't pay for better healthcare. This doesn't even remotely pay for comparable health care. This plan pays for a massive tax cut to the super wealthy. That's what the GOP lawmakers are paying for. And they're paying for it with your health care, with your life. So, yes, now the Senate will go to work on their own bill because one look at the ACHA or Trumpcare tells you that the House Republicans didn't work on this bill at all. All they did was work like crazy to pass it. They didn't do any work on it. That's why everything that I've read from anybody who's responsible said this is the sloppiest bill they'd ever seen, and that the words, there's all these gaps in the words, and they can't even follow it except the $880 billion cut to Medicaid. That's pretty obvious. So good luck to our disabled children. Good luck to our vulnerable seniors who are in nursing homes. Maybe they have family left. Maybe they don't. Good luck to the nursing homes who take all these patients based on Medicaid payments. Now they're not going to get those either. What do? Wheel grandma out into the freaking gutter and leave her there in a wheelchair? What do they do? Make sure to breathe very shallowly because this oxygen is all you have. And it will only last about 6 hours if you breathe deep. So just shallow breaths, Missy. Not like that. Slow, like once every minute. Breathe. I mean, this is unbelievable. So the seniors in nursing homes, kids with disabilities, poor people, the most vulnerable among us. And of course, the first essential benefit that they want gone is opioid addiction. And what's poor Frank? See, poor Frank. Frank on TV, the cute guy who suffers from opioid-induced constipation. And his doctor said, why are you holding it in so long? And then he had his Movantic moment. It's some Movantic, that commercial, right? Puts you in the mood to take a dump. Well, what's Frank going to do? Who's going to pay for his Movantic moments now? He's addicted to opioids. He says it right there in the commercial. And he's on a construction site. We're screwed. Ken in White Plains.
Hey, how's it going, Randy?
Good.
Okay, this guy wants to get rid of all government-funded things. Like I have food stamps. My apartment gets paid by Section 8. Well, if he gets rid of all that, then I'm screwed.
Well, if he gets rid of, how do you get your health care? Medicaid?
Yeah, Medicare, too.
Yeah, okay. So, just don't end up in a nursing home, is all I can say.
Yeah, well, I'm 40, so I'm about 20, 30 years from that.
You never know, Frank. Ken. I'm thinking of Frank with his Movantic moment. He's so cute, that Frank. You know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I've seen that commercial.
Yeah, he's adorable. Man hasn't taken a decent dump in 6 weeks.
Well, he takes away the opiate treatment. This guy.
I love that we gave it a name, opioid-induced constipation. I love that we name these things that opioids do. I just love that they want to continue to have everyone addicted to opioids. Now, we don't even know what Frank's issue is. Really, we don't. But it could be something small. It could be, he had a tooth removed and then he got addicted and now he's got opioid-induced constipation because his dentist gave him, 800 milligrams of fentanyl. In a patch. So we don't know why he can't take a dump. Sal in Los Angeles.
Hey, Randy, have you read the special education provision in this thing?
Yes.
This is ridiculous. Physical therapy and feeding tubes. These are all going to be cut. If you've got a kid that's in a special needs program in a public school district, you've got issues if he or she has to go away from the district to get PT or OT or any of this kind of situation.
And they're doing it to our veterans too. You know, the new VA secretary said he was going to, shut down a whole bunch of VA hospitals, hoping that our veterans can afford to buy health care.
Well, I have a son who's 30 years old, and he was in special education in the public school system. He got benefits, and without those, he never would have made it through.
Right, of course.
So, I mean, this is terrible. I mean,
it's cruel.
This is real bad.
This is cruel, is what it is. This is the word that everybody is searching for. What is this? Yeah. Yesterday, all day, I was speechless. Plus, I was having a lot of problems with my equipment. I just could not think. And then finally, I went home early. I sat there. I looked at this thing. I said, and it's the cruelest thing. That is the word everybody's groping for.
Right. But on the other hand, though, I live in Orange County 45, and that's Mimi Walters. That was Did you see the two girls that took the selfie on the when they were doing the White House ceremony? There was a blonde and the brunette. That's Mimi, and Mimi's gotten the district mobilized. They're having a town hall, and they're indivisible because she was one of the Congress women that got elected in a district that Hillary won. So, I mean, there are 24 of them that voted yes yesterday that Hillary won. And I'll tell you, some of them are in trouble in Southern California. I know ICE is in trouble. This woman's going to be in trouble. 3 people have come out already, running Democrats already in our district, and one of them is being supported by Elizabeth Warren. So this is mobilized a lot of people in Southern California to get going.
Right. The only joy that anybody can take in this cruel and unusually cruel. The GOP is always looking to take money from the poor. They're reverse Robin Hood types. I mean, there's no question. But the only joy that you could take in any of this is that it's going to hurt the Republicans who voted for it yesterday, all 217 of them, almost as badly as it would have hurt your child and others, vulnerable people in our society, and that it's never going to pass. Never. This thing is dead.
Well, no,
it's dead as a doornail.
It's dead, and I think what will happen is if they do come up with something, it'll be very close to what we have now. I really can't.
I'm telling you, I swear to you on my life, the answer to the puzzling question of the complex nature of healthcare is to pay those damn payments that were promised to these insurance carriers. I went to Aetna's website. I read their statement. I saw their CEO, and they said that the reason why they can't stay on the exchange is because those payments weren't made. They lost more money than they were supposed to lose, and then they got the payments were never made to them. And all this uncertainty with Trump and what's he going to do? They just can't plan their business model. They can't even price a plan.
And there was a story out, I'm sure you've talked about it, that now Trump is threatening to not to make the payments to the insurance carriers,
the $7 billion
as a negotiating tool.
But that's a different payment. That's a different payment. That's $7 billion that he was threatening to withhold. That's additional help for people to pay the out-of-pocket costs. When they talk about deductibles too high and they can't use their health insurance, there are payments that are made to those people to help them meet the deductible and to help them pay those out-of-pocket costs. And that's the $7 billion he's threatening to withhold. Not the risk corridor payments. They've already not appropriated the money. And that's
they haven't.
Right. And that's the problem. And this was Marco Rubio's little move in the Senate in 2014 for the 15 budget. And then once it looked like we might be appropriating money and we would set it aside, Ted Cruz introduced a piece of legislation calling the payments a slush fund. And that's never been voted on. But the money is somewhere. It's there. So we don't have to live like this. We don't. What I do want you to do is learn who your Congress member is today. And, if you call me up and you give me your zip code, I will tell you who your Congress member is, and I will also tell you where there is a place for you to be active near you, if at all there is one near you, and there probably is. So you can show up and tell them this was the cruelest, cut the cruelest thing that you'd ever seen happen in America. This is not an American thing that they're doing. America never, is not a place where you take away health insurance from 24 million people and then go to the Rose Garden and have a party. I've never seen any American party for taking away health care.
All things Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randi Rhodes Show.
You're listening to WIN, Workers Independent News, a diversified media enterprises production. I'm Doug Cunningham. 217 House Republicans Thursday voted to take health insurance away from 24 million people. That's how many people the Congressional Budget Office says will lose health insurance if Obamacare is repealed. Not a single House Democrat voted for this. The bill cuts taxes for the rich. It eliminates required essential coverages like hospitalization, prescription drugs, mental health care, and maternity care. The Trump and House Republican bill cuts health insurance subsidies, hikes out-of-pocket costs, and raises premium costs on older people. It lets states end requirements that insurance companies provide insurance to people with pre-existing conditions, and people with pre-existing conditions will pay more. The U.S. Senate is not expected to rush its vote on this House bill. Progressive Democrats of America Executive Director Donna Smith says Medicare for all is the health care we really need, and she says California and New York can show the way.
Now California and New York got to lead the way, show the nation how we're going to make this happen. And California's bill will be just fabulous for the country and for Californians in particular. Now is the time for all of us to really say Medicare for all is the only way to solve this problem.
The Economic Policy Institute says if the House GOP health insurance bill becomes law, the vast majority of Americans will be poorer, less healthy, and more financially insecure. EPI says the bill cuts $900 billion from Medicaid, which would result in 14 million people losing health insurance. EPI says a 64-year-old making $20,790 a year would pay $12,900 more each year for health insurance under the GOP bill, plus higher deductibles and copays. Non-group health insurance premiums will rise by $25 billion each year, and EPI says by 2022, 1.8 million jobs will be lost if the GOP health insurance bill becomes law. 10,000 nurses are expected Friday for a Capitol Hill rally demanding safe nurse-to-patient staffing ratio legislation. The OPEIU Nurses Council will join the rally. They say nurses are pressured by corporate CEOs to do more with less, endangering patient safety. And that is why safe nurse staffing legislation is needed. OPEIU says so far national legislation on nurse-patient safe staffing ratios has been stalled by big money and associations that care less about nurses and their patients and more about profits.
Workers Independent News is proud to be heard on The Union Edge, Labor's Talk Radio. Live nationwide weekdays noon to 3 p.m. at theunionedge.com.
Workers Independent News puts workers and their unions on the national radio news airwaves every day. To help keep labor's voice on the air, go to laborradio.org.
WIN is made possible in part by the OPEIU, the Office and Professional Employees International Union. You've been listening to WIN, Workers Independent News. For more information, visit laborradio.org.
The Randi Rhodes Show is brought to you by our partners at ITM Trading. Call them at 1-888-OWN-GOLD and ask for a free gold kit. 1-888-OWN-GOLD.
The Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandyRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
I just hope it doesn't start randomly.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, I knew it was going to start randomly. I knew it. Look at them congratulating themselves. Look at these white boys congratulating themselves.
That's the group. Thank you. Thank you very much. This really is the group. What a great group of people. And they're not even doing it for the party. They're doing it for this country. Because we suffered with Obamacare.
Yeah, I
went through 2 years of campaigning, and I'm telling you, no matter where I went, people were suffering so badly with the ravages of Obamacare. And I will say this, that As far as I'm concerned, your premiums, they're going to start to come down.
You get what you pay for.
We're going to get this passed through the Senate. I feel so confident.
Not a chance.
Your deductibles, when it comes to deductibles, they were so ridiculous that nobody got to use their current plan.
I did.
This non-existent plan that I heard so many wonderful things about over the last 3 or 4 days after that. I mean, it's. I don't think you're going to hear so much right now. The insurance companies are fleeing. It's been a catastrophe, and this is a great plan. I actually think it will get even better, and this is, make no mistake, this is a repeal and a replace of Obamacare. Make no mistake about it. Make no mistake.
Make no mistake. I did what I said I was going to do. Except for the part where I said that I would not touch Medicare and I would not touch Medicaid because you already paid into it. Yeah, except for that part. He doesn't even know what the plan is, okay? But let me just show you something. Let me just show you what is going on, why we have insurers fleeing, and they are fleeing the interview. They're fleeing the healthcare exchanges. It is because the federal government owes insurers roughly, and this is as of 2016, okay, $8.3 billion, which is there, obviously, because, remember, you know, the Upton Amendment, right? It's going to put $8 billion into the high-risk pool funding. So that should tell you there's $8 billion to be had. Got that? Good. Because that is what we owe for the risk corridor program to offset the losses on the exchanges. Insurers for that's what we owed for 14 and 15 that didn't get paid. Insurers are owed another 5.8 in net risk corridor payments for 15. And this risk corridor program was to pay the insurance companies back if they lost money. Now, they paid into a fund also to have the privilege of selling to us. And if they lost X amount of dollars, then we would pay them. But we didn't. We didn't pay them. And that is why insurance carriers are fleeing. That is what Aetna said. And let me tell you something. A lot of the other carriers who are still active on the exchanges, like the Blues, all the Blues, they are still on the exchanges. And they're saying, you know, all this uncertainty that he's throwing into this, we have no earthly idea what the future. We're trying to set prices right now for 2018, and we don't know how to do that with this man. But these high-risk corridor programs were established under Obamacare to help offset the losses that insurers would take in the first 3 years of the exchanges. And it expired, in 2016. They never got paid. And that's why you saw this year lawsuits being filed. And you also saw this year people pulling off of the exchanges. It hasn't worked because they refuse to appropriate the money for the payments. They have reneged on the contract. Now, like I said, there's one court that is a Gorsuch-type judge who says, well, you have to go with the plain meaning, and if they didn't appropriate money, plainly, they didn't mean to pay you. But then there are other judges that say clearly they intended to pay you because there's sections in there that talk about high-risk corridor payments and programs. So we have to wait for this to get completely and utterly litigated. But that is the solution to the terrible problem. You don't have to punish little kids. You don't have to punish women who are in their senior years in a nursing home with a feeding tube and an oxygen tank. These are not the people you need to punish in order for him to declare victory. When one chamber of our government, just one, passed a piece of crap thing, he decided to have a party. This is the sickest thing I ever saw. Never saw anything as bizarre as this. Ever. Has anybody ever seen people celebrating one house, one chamber, one single vote? Oh, believe me, make no mistake, we repealed and replaced Obama. You did nothing even remotely close to that, okay, is nothing. And everybody knows it now. Everybody knows it. All right, Kim in Cato, New York.
Hi, Randy. Just want to tell you, first of all, I am so grateful that you are on the radio. You keep me sane. Dear God. The thing I wanted to ask, or talk about were about the pre-existing conditions. And, maybe we wouldn't have so many pre-existing conditions in a high-risk corridor if the companies that are in our country would stop dumping crap in our water, spewing out stuff in our air, putting pesticides in our crops. Maybe we would be cutting down on asthma, diabetes, cancer.
Autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis.
Exactly.
Myasthenia gravis.
I didn't even mention those, but those are on my list too. It makes me crazy when I hear about,
Okay.
these people.
So check this out. I don't know.
Party on our backs.
It's true.
And I'm just disgusted.
What do we do now? What do we do now with the kids who were lead poisoned in various right? What do we do with them now?
I have no idea.
How do they get treatment? How do they get special ed? How do they get cognitive skills back after we've poisoned them?
Well, guess what? You know what? They're billing the people in that town for their poisoned water.
Oh yeah, I saw some woman. She couldn't pay her water bill.
So they're going to get rid of them. They're going to
and she's getting
foreclose on their
sued.
home.
Right, she's getting foreclosed on because she couldn't pay her water bill, and the water contained all this lead, and she was drinking bottled water and showering with bottled water, so she stopped paying her water bill.
I mean, so they're asking them to pay for poisoned water,
right?
That they can't even use because some dummy made the mistake of saying, "Oh well, this will be a great way to cut out some money here."
I would think that some smart lawyers would form a class action and do something about the defective product known as Flint water.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty much what I have to say.
Yeah. Thank you.
Just saying, maybe we can start talking about, the people that have polluted our planet, because everybody else has this Band-Aid approach, and I'm just disgusted.
You should be. It is disgusting, and that's why you're disgusted. And it's disgusting because it's cruel. It's cruel. It's mean. It's ugly what they did yesterday. And that they celebrated it was just the cherry on the cake of my day, and you know how that went yesterday. So I just couldn't, for the life of me, could not stomach it. It literally makes you disgusted, nauseous, not mildly like Comey. No, Comey was only mildly nauseous. I'm full-throttled, projectile vomiting last night because of how disgusted and disgusting and cruel and unusual. I have never, ever seen America celebrate taking health care away from 14 to 24 million people. I have never seen that. I've never seen it. It's unbelievable. And of course, that $8 billion that we owe for those reserves, it's there because it got appropriated by Upton, right? And they voted on it. They voted on the appropriation for the $8 billion to go into the high risk pools, which never, ever, ever, ever work, because then you have all the sick people in one pool. The insurers who do, the underwriting, the actuarials, they looked at it and they go, well, we could make this work if we advertised if we had an individual mandate, which, by the way, went in their bill, the individual mandate went away. You know how much we collect with the individual mandate? Meaning people who opt out and don't get health care and they have to pay a little something for their choice. We collect $200 billion. 200 in those fines. Penalties. It's not a fine, it's a penalty, right? So that $200 billion goes away. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Michael in Los Angeles.
Hi, Randy.
Hey.
Happy Cinco de Mayo.
Oh, gracias.
And to put whipped cream and a cherry on this poop sundae, or caca sundae. In the tax proposal that came out from Trump, they want to get rid of the health care deduction on your income tax.
Yeah, everything goes away except for what were the two? There were two deductions he was going to let us keep: mortgage
and charities,
and what?
Mortgage and charities.
Oh, and charitable giving. Right. Everything else goes away. Everything else. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I went to my shrink the other day, and we were talking, and he asked me about Trump, and I said, Trump's election is 10 times more stressful than 9/11 to me.
Yeah, well, 9/11 was a disgusting thing to watch.
Yeah.
And it affected 3,000 people, that we know of. But this affects 330 million people. It is the broadest attack on Americans' well-being, health, ability to live, ability to, let their children live, save their babies. I mean, it's the sickest thing to be attacked this way by your own government.
Well, I over Christmas I was in Missouri, and I met a lot of people that were Trump voters, and I can understand how desperate they are and how poor they are, and it breaks my heart. It absolutely breaks my heart, and I can't blame them.
No, I know what you're saying. I do, but here's why I hold them somewhat responsible.
Well, yeah.
I hold them responsible because they don't realize what is happening to them. They can't orient themselves, and they can't orient themselves to the easy fixes for the terrible problems we have because they don't read. They don't read newspapers. They either get their news from their Facebook feed, or they get their news from Twitter, or they get their news from Fox, or they get their news from CMS, or they get their news from what do you call that stuff? Fake news sites, and
right.
And they don't understand what's happening to them, and I think they need to, because when you're really trying to figure your way out of the hole, the first thing you have to know is to stop digging, and they don't know that.
I sent you some PDF posters a while back. I don't know if you got them, but one of them was a portrait of Trump, and underneath it just says liar, which is basically what he is. Oh,
he's a horrible liar. He's a world heavyweight champion liar. There is no question about it. Jay in Nevada.
Hi, Randy.
Hi, Jay.
Hey, I've expressed some personal information to you before about my Obama having my coverage and me losing my left eye due to cancer and half my face.
Oh, right. How are you?
Yeah, and if I wouldn't have had Obamacare, the doctor said that if 30 days more, I would have died.
So check this out. I mean, this is really vile. This is why this is just another part of it that's really vile. For instance, what you would have to do now is you would have to apply for a health insurance policy by providing all your medical records going way back. And then once you were rejected by a commercial health insurance provider, then you'd have to do it again to the state for the high risk pool. And the high risk pool may or may not accept you. And if it does, it may make you wait 6 to 12 months.
I would have died.
That's what I'm saying.
If I would have it, if this was the past and and have the same process, I would die.
And that's the death panel that they've been talking about.
And this is being on disability. This is appalling to what they're doing to Americans, and people don't care.
They don't know.
All things Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randy Rhodes Show.
Now, the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn presents the Green News Report.
I think you'll see a market decline in solar installers, solar businesses, and people that are considering it.
Indiana governor signs bill to gut state's rooftop solar industry. Another coal mine tragedy, this time in Iran. Exxon ordered to pay $20 million for refinery pollution. Denmark moves to phase out renewable energy subsidies. Plus, Rhode Island town makes history as the first in the U.S. to be powered by offshore wind.
All of those history lessons and more straight ahead from BradBlog.com. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
You can't deny global warming is happening and then say, but don't call us stupid. That's the little dilemma I'm in.
What a stupid dilemma. This is your Green News Report.
Don't call me stupid. Well, then don't be stupid.
Okay, Desi Doyen, speaking of stupid, we're keeping our eyes on the White House and their decision about whether or not They will become the shame of planet Earth by having the U.S. drop out of the landmark UN Paris Climate Agreement. Just incredible that they're even thinking about it, but they are, and we're keeping our eyes on that until that decision. What else do you have for us today, Desi Doyen?
Well, first, in Iran, another fossil fuel tragedy. At least 21 miners were killed and dozens more injured in a coal mine explosion in the northern Iranian province of Golestan on Wednesday. Rescue operations were suspended due to toxic gases that sent 25 responders to a hospital. Officials say as many as 40 coal miners may still be trapped in the mine. Here in the U.S., in Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb on Tuesday signed legislation to phase out payments to homeowners who sell clean electricity back to the grid.
Unbelievable.
Indiana's powerful electric utility industry aggressively lobbied the state legislature to pass the bill to end net metering on new rooftop solar installations. It's a tactic increasingly deployed in state legislatures by investor-owned utilities seeking to block competition from rooftop solar. In an interview with WRTV in Indianapolis, one resident said the law is already impacting potential buyers.
This is going to discourage people putting solar panels on their roofs, and because of the net metering aspects of it. I know a number of people right now who've put their orders for solar panels on hold.
And remember, these are the champions of the free market who are doing this, who are making it harder to buy clean solar, easier to burn dirty coal. Geniuses and hypocrites all.
In Texas, a federal judge has ordered oil giant ExxonMobil to pay $20 million for violating the Clean Air Act more than 16,000 times over a 5-year period.
Really?
At its Baytown, Texas refinery, located 25 miles east of Houston. Environment Texas, which brought the lawsuit over the pollution, described the fine as, quote, the largest penalty resulting from a citizen suit in U.S. history.
Well, they only violated it 16,000 times?
Yeah. In Alaska, good news for polar bears. The U.S. Supreme Court on Monday refused to hear a case on the federal government's decision to designate more than 187,000 square miles in Alaska as critical habitat for threatened polar bears. That means a decision by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to protect large swaths of Alaska's coast and waters will stand. Also in Alaska, the Natural Resources Defense Council filed suit in federal court on Wednesday to block President Trump's executive order to lift a ban on offshore drilling in parts of the Arctic and the Atlantic Oceans, areas that had been protected by President Obama last year. The suit alleges that lifting the ban violates federal law. NRDC and the law firm Earth Justice filed the complaint on behalf of a coalition of indigenous Alaskan tribes who will be most impacted by offshore drilling. Meanwhile, the nation of Denmark will soon phase out subsidies for wind energy because its industry no longer needs them. The nation is now on target to have all of its energy needs met by renewables by 2050. The Danish energy minister said it's a development he could not have imagined as recently as last year. The nation is now on target to have all of its energy needs met by renewables by 2050.
That's very good news. Wow, good story.
Here in the U.S., the City Council of Atlanta has unanimously approved a measure to source 100% of its electricity from renewable energy. It's the 27th city in the U.S. and the first in Georgia to make the commitment.
Also a good story.
Finally, just 10 months after starting construction, America's first ever offshore wind farm is now generating clean electricity off the coast of Rhode Island. On Monday, May 1st, Block Island, Rhode Island shut down its small diesel power plant forever. And after a moment of silence, switched on the new 5-turbine Block Island wind farm off the coast of Rhode Island, the first offshore wind farm in the U.S. In a statement, officials said, quote, the silence was symbolic for saving nearly 1 million gallons of diesel fuel annually.
Too much good news. I don't know what I'm going to do. Thank you. For much more on all of these reports and the ones we couldn't get to, check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. From bradblog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
Good day, sunshine.
This has been the Green News Report on the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn.
Mary had a little lamb. The fault.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. change has come to America.
Believe it.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
They are cruel, selfish, bigoted tools.
But it will do a lot of things to knock down Obamacare. It's going to change the subsidies that Obamacare now provides to help people pay their premiums. Those subsidies are now based on a person's income and, very importantly, on the cost of the premium in their area. The Republican plan will offer instead tax credits based on a person's age, and this could be a really big problem for people because if the cost of coverage in their area is very high, the tax credits don't adjust like the Obamacare subsidies do to cover that. Another big change that the Republican plan would enact is that right now there are ironclad protections for people with pre-existing conditions under Obamacare. The Republican plan would allow states to waive out of some of those provisions. So insurers could charge people more if based on their health history, and they could also not cover all of the treatments and services that some people with pre-existing conditions need. So Republicans, instead of offering these benefits for people with pre-existing conditions, they're going to bring back high-risk pools, which were very common before Obamacare. But they were expensive. They charged oftentimes double the premiums. These high-risk pools in the past, before Obamacare, were chronically underfunded, and states had to put in billions of dollars in order to, make them solvent. So the high-risk pools are going to be a very expensive option. So insurers under Obamacare are required to cover 10 essential health benefits. These include prescription drugs, substance abuse, mental health, maternity. Under the Republican plan, states can opt out of requiring insurers to cover all of these benefits. So it'll depend on where you live. It'll be very unequal coverage. One of the other major changes is to really overhaul Medicaid. The Republican bill will eliminate funding for Medicaid expansion. It's likely that as people fall out of the program, states are not going to sign up new people. But even more so, and I don't think a lot of people recognize this, it would actually fundamentally change the traditional Medicaid program, which now covers more than 70 million people. That's about 1 in 5 Americans are under Medicaid, and it is going to change that program radically. The Congressional Budget Office expects that federal support for Medicaid would be cut by 25% by 2026. That is going to be huge. And the states are going to have to deal with this lower funding from the federal government. So they're going to have to curtail benefits, curtail eligibility. So there are going to be a lot fewer people on Medicaid. One of the most hated parts of Obamacare is the individual mandate. That is going to go away. So you will no longer be required to get coverage or pay a penalty. Employers who have more than 50 workers are also required to provide affordable coverage for their workers. That also goes away under the Republican plan.
Hello.
There were a lot of taxes associated with Obamacare to help pay for it. All of these go away. Under Obamacare, there was an historic drop in the uninsured rate in America. That's very important to note. And under the Republican plan, it's very likely that that number is going to be reversed.
And there you have it, everybody. All the changes in under 3 minutes. Did you hear the part where employers who have over 50 employees are now currently required to provide their employees with health care benefits? And that goes away? Did you hear that part? Yeah, so if you're working for a company that currently provides you employer-based health insurance, that could go away too. And then you'll be in a marketplace where you could be buying health insurance that doesn't cover anything. It doesn't cover hospitalization. It might not cover your prescription drugs. If you have a pre-existing condition and you have health, your health insurance from your employer, and your employer is no longer required to provide you with this health coverage, because that's what this thing changes, is the requirement that they do currently have to provide you with health insurance if there's over 50 employees. And you've had, I don't know, anything happen to you. You've had, appendicitis, or you've had acne, or you've had a pregnancy. God help you if you've had a cesarean section. That's a pre-existing condition. A cesarean section is a pre-existing condition. Maternity care is a pre-existing condition. And you remember we had a caller the other day who was, he wasn't clear, and he apologized for not being clear, but he said that he had read somewhere that rape would be considered a pre-existing condition. Okay, it's half true, half false. Okay, so let's just, in a nutshell, what he was trying to say and wasn't, able to say because he had just started reading about it and shocked him and he dialed, is that if you were sexually assaulted and because of that assault, you were treated for STDs that you could have potentially gotten from this strange person who did something to you that would allow for an STD to be transmitted from that person to you. So you sought treatment or you were advised to get treatment and you accepted the treatment. That's now a pre-existing condition that you were treated for an STD, that whether or not you had it or you didn't, that's what makes rape victims or rape survivors now be classified as somebody with a pre-existing condition if they reported the rape and were treated for possible STD infections or AIDS or HIV or any of those things. Okay, then that is a pre-existing condition. This is such a wipeout of everybody. And yes, it includes, this is the first time I've ever seen anything be taken away from people who work for larger companies with 50 or more employees because they have been mandated for years to provide you with a health plan. And now that goes away too. I just want you to be very clear about that. I just want you to know this isn't just for me. This isn't just for individuals. This isn't just for small businesses who buy their individual health plans or they buy in a small group plan setting. No, this is for everybody that gets a health care plan, whether you get it through your employer or you have to do it individually or on your own or in a small group. It affects everybody. The subsidies, by the way, the subsidies that you get do currently have to do with the cost of purchasing health care in your location. What does it cost to buy a health care plan in Florida? And of course, you do have options. You can choose a high deductible plan. You can choose, this is the bronze, the silver, the gold, the platinum plans, all these plans. You could choose. But each plan, every plan, must include these 10 essential benefits, and they do include preventative care. So you could always use your health insurance. That is another lie that they told, that you had this health insurance, but you couldn't see a doctor, you couldn't use it. Bullcrap. Preventative services like mammograms and cancer screenings and well women visits and well men visits and your prostate exam, anything that was preventative in nature, not diagnostic but preventative, was covered under Obamacare, was covered in your employer's plan. It was 10 essential benefits that were offered to every single American in any package that they bought or were given by their employer. That goes away. So your employer could start, providing you with health insurance that doesn't cover prescriptions or lesser health insurance, skimpier plan that has a lifetime cap on it or that, has a yearly cap on it, for instance. And the high-risk pool, same thing. I just want you to know this goes across the board to all the plans. This is why it's so important to pay attention. If you had a plan, if you get put in a high-risk pool or you had a plan that had a $6,000 deductible, that's a lot, okay? But let's say that that's what you had. Currently, you could have, if you're put in a high-risk pool because your employer stopped providing you health care and you have a pre-existing condition, maybe you are obese, maybe you do have diabetes, maybe you have high blood pressure, maybe you're on a blood thinner because you had a stent placed or anything, and you're feeling healthy, but anything that has happened to you before, even through your employer-based health insurance, can now be used against you. Okay, so you get thrown in a high-risk pool. All of a sudden, you go from this fabulous employer-based health insurance to all of a sudden you're in a high-risk pool. Well, I'll tell you what, your premiums could go 10 times higher, and your deductible could be as much as $25,000. And after the $25,000 deductible, the cap on what they will pay for your care for that year could be as low as $75,000. And that will be considered access to health care in this plan, in this House plan. This is disgusting when you consider that what we have now is that every single person has to be charged the same amount regardless of their health status. and get subsidies that are increased depending on where you live and the cost of buying that health care. I know I get a subsidy. I get a lot because I hardly pay myself here, okay? I pay everybody before I pay me. That's what small business owners do. Now that subsidy goes away, right? And it's probably like $5,000, $6,000 a year. Now it's paid according to your age. So young people, like in their 20s, they will get $2,000. And the most you can get when you're over 50 is $4,000. And that's a tax credit for the next year. So you have to pay the whole premium every month out of your pocket and then apply for a tax credit the next year. And the maximum amount that you could take if you're 50 to 64 is $4,000. It goes from $2,000 to $4,000. That's it. Now, I know people that get $600, $700 to help them pay for their health care. So $600, $700 to pay for health care times 12 is almost $8,000 at the top end, right? $4,000. So on every level, this is terrible coverage. Terrible, expensive, horrible, unusable, unworkable coverage. And like I said, people who are getting it through their employers, beware. This does affect you. And I know a lot of people have not paid attention to the healthcare conversation because they get their healthcare through their employer and they're not buying individual policies. You better wake up. Get woke and stay that way because this is ugly. Chris in San Jose.
Hi, Randy.
Hello.
It's a first time, long time.
Oh, wow. Hi.
Thanks. Hey, I was calling because I wanted to share my story.
Now you could have a pre-existing condition. I just gave it to you.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
It was fun. Hey, so my story is I started working for myself about 10 years ago, and when I first went on, I went to Kaiser, was paying about $300 a month for insurance, and then it went up to $400 within a couple of years. And I thought, you know what, this is ridiculous. It's too expensive, and I'm not sick. So I never go to the doctor. I never use it, so I canceled it. Then Obamacare came along, and I thought, okay, I got to start doing it again. I'm going to have to start paying a penalty. So I went and signed up, and I actually qualified for a subsidy at that time. And so for the first year, it was great, because they paid basically half of the $400 that I was being charged.
Right.
And so it worked out really good. And then the next year I didn't qualify for it, but
because you made money, right?
Yeah, I started making a little bit more money, so I'm kind of like still in that situation where
age tax. Sorry, it's C-SPAN. It's C-SPAN. That always happens. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
So anyway, I long story short, I was severely obese, and I had weight loss surgery last year, and lost 175 pounds in a year.
Wow.
So I'm in great shape now, and this whole thing just really worries me because I'm 54 years old, and if I lose my insurance, and I don't know if this will count as a pre-existing condition or not, but I'm struggling. I mean, I'm in Silicon Valley. It's very expensive to live here, so you have to make a lot of money in order to survive. So it does worry me. It worries me a lot. I mean, and now my premiums are $500 a month. So it has gone up. The thing that really, the big lie was that Obamacare raised everything, because it didn't really. I mean, healthcare costs were going up even before that because it went from $300 to $400.
Well, here's the dirty little secret, that the growth in healthcare costs is the slowest that it's been since Obamacare. But yes, it keeps going up because insurance carriers are not getting reimbursed for what they were told they'd get reimbursed for. And so they're passing the cost on to you. Also, with this, you add all these administrative layers, like underwriting comes back, where they'll decide whether or not your surgery was a pre-existing condition, or your obesity was a pre-existing condition, or whether it was a pre-existing condition but you've dealt with it so it no longer affects you. The underwriter is going to have to decide, and if the underwriter says yeah it is, then you're going to have to reapply again. Now, thank God you're in California. I really doubt that California, unless it falls into the hands of another Republican psycho governor like a Ronald Reagan, who thinks that Medicare was going to be the end of was going to be the end of freedom. It was the end of freedom, Medicare. So, it just depends on who your governor is. But if they deny you and then you have to go into the high risk pool, then you have to do all that paperwork all over again and find all your records from all that that you went through. And then they'll put you in a high-risk pool, and you, like I said, could have a $25,000 deductible, and your health care costs could be capped per year at $75,000.
Right.
I mean, this is ridiculous what they done. And why did they do it? Because they had an imagined problem that didn't exist, and then they created the problem by not paying the risk corridor payments.
Well, I mean, I still thank God for Obamacare because it forced me to get insured and forced me to deal with the weight issue. And now I'm healthy. I'm the healthiest I've probably been since I was 18 years old.
I'm so happy to hear that. I really am.
So if the healthcare system falls apart, hopefully I won't need it. But at the same time, I know I am because I'm getting older. You know, we all are. And it's very scary.
That's the thing. This particular thing is going to pit, it's going to try and pit the poor against the rich. Except, and people who are healthy against people who are not so healthy. But the little ray of sunshine is you could go from being healthy to not being healthy in 5 seconds. So they might be joining us, right? Because obviously I don't talk about it all that much, but I have a pre-existing condition. I mean, I can't imagine, that all the stats I see. Almost everybody has one. Almost everybody, according to these rules.
For a commercial-free, on-demand, whenever, wherever listening experience, visit randyrhodes.com for your personal premium podcast today.
I love Herky Jerky because it's big protein, big flavor, big packs, and teeny tiny carbs. And that's why jerky is my favorite snack, but you cannot get the best stuff at the gas station. You have to order it online from herkyjerky.com, the best purveyors of jerky I have ever found. Herky Jerky is the official snack of the Randi Rhodes Air Force, and it comes in elk and buffalo, beef, and bacon. Oh yes, bacon, hot, mild, 14 other incredible flavors. And for the month of May, $6 off any order of $60 or more. Just use promo code SPRING. Free shipping as always when you order 2 packs or more. Try the venison, the beef, the buffalo, the bacon, the elk. Try the sticks. Try the slabs. Beef, elk, venison, bacon sticks. The most amazing thing you have ever had. The sticks have the right bite to them. The flavor is amazing, delicious, and fresh every time. And $6 off your order of 60 or more. Visit herkyjerky.com right now. herkyjerky.com.
When my son was born in 2014, I took 6 weeks of maternity leave. Well, I call it maternity leave because explaining what it really was is much more confusing. Welcome to She Persisted. I'm Melissa Carter for the Progressive Voices Network. The truth is I was not on maternity leave because I didn't qualify for it. We had to use a surrogate, and since I didn't physically give birth to Mr. Carter, I was unable to receive time off with compensation. Under federal law, I was able to take 12 weeks off without losing my job under the Family and Medical Leave Act, but they would have been unpaid. I always envisioned maternity leave as a time for a mother to get a handle on her new position in life. How do I feed this child? Does he get sick easily? How soon will he sleep through the night? There's a lot to figure out before going back to work, and I thought giving a new mother time off was an employer's way of allowing that adjustment to take place before bringing her back into the 9-to-5 grind. Nope. The reason for maternity leave is to allow time for the mother's physical recovery and has nothing to do with emotional support for her or the child. That's why paternity leave is unpaid. The father's not the one who went into labor. And the cost of the mother's absence from work is paid for through her short-term disability benefits. So how did I take time off? Well, my company allowed me to cluster vacation and sick days. I'm very grateful for their generosity, even though 6 weeks is just a blink of an eye in regard to Mr. Carter's development. And when compared to the rest of the world, so is the standard 3 months or 12 weeks of paid time off many American mothers receive from their companies. In the United Kingdom, they get 40 weeks mandated paid maternity leave. Vietnam and Ireland give 26 weeks, while Finland offers 23 weeks. Plus, after Finnish kids turn 3, parents can take partial care leave in which they split time between home and work, and that lasts until the child starts 2nd grade. My baby mama and I continued to run the gauntlet of following professional ambition while figuring out the mysteries of motherhood, all on no sleep. It is, of course, the American way. This has been She Persisted for the Progressive Voices Network. I'm Melissa Carter.
The Randi Rhodes Air Force. The Randi Rhodes Show is live on randyrhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or progressivevoices.com now.
Corporations are people, my friend.
People are people.
I don't think we should pass bills that we haven't read, that we don't know what they cost. And if you rush this thing through before anybody even knows what it is, that's not good democracy. That's not doing our work for our constituents.
Yeah, what happened to that guy? What happened to the little teenage Paul Ryan? What happened to him? Let's look at Wisconsin. Want to look at Wisconsin just for a brief moment? Mr. Janesville over here? Okay. In 2011, in Wisconsin, 21,000 people were enrolled in the state high-risk pool. They paid double the premiums of a comparable individual market plan. They had a $2,500 annual deductible, and they had a lifetime cap on what that plan could pay over their lifetime, even if they were buying health insurance for their newborn, of $1 million per lifetime. And they were not covered. And think about our previous caller who had cancer in his eye, okay, that required immediate surgery, still lost his eye and still lost part of his face. But thank God he's still with us. He's alive and productive, okay? So you got a $2,500 you pay double the premiums. You got a $2,500 deductible, a lifetime cap on what the plan would ever pay for anybody is $1 million. And that infant nobody would be covered until 6 months after enrolling. And that was if you could get a spot in the high risk pool. Most states with high risk pools had very, very long waiting lists that people never, ever were able to survive. So there's Paul Ryan's fix, right? We'll throw him into the high risk, but this was an old idea that never worked that he brought back to life just so he could stand there and smile and congratulate himself on killing people in Wisconsin. And that is what happened in Wisconsin, okay? And that was just one state. Now, they say that if they add $8 billion to fund the high risk pools, that they will ensure that people with pre-existing conditions will be covered. But not only has history proven that that doesn't happen, but that money does not nearly go far enough. The Kaiser Family Foundation said this is nothing. It's now you look at what some healthcare providers are owed in the high risk corridor payments, $8 billion. If they would just take that $8 billion they appropriated yesterday for these stupid high-risk pools and did it for the high-risk corridor payments, you would have people coming back onto the exchange. You would have, Aetna come back onto the exchange. You would have United Healthcare come back onto the exchange. It's because they're not interested in solving your problem. They're interested in stealing your money. The mandate alone, the money we raise because there is an individual mandate to buy coverage, if you have no coverage, it gathers us another $200 billion. Where the hell is that money going to go? Tax cuts. $880 billion is being taken out of Medicaid. Where the hell does that money go? Tax cuts. $8 billion was put into high-risk pools, but if you put it into the risk corridor payments, we wouldn't have a problem. But they want the problem, so they create the problem. Then they pretend to solve it by taking the same money that's owed to these people and paying it over there where it can't do you any good. And then they'll throw their hands up and say, we just can't afford to do. And by the way, this $8 billion's got to last 5 years. The $8 billion it's got to last for 5 years. So it's $1 billion, a little more than $1 billion a year to cover, 130 million people with pre-existing conditions? Oh, give me a break. It doesn't pass the smell test. It's just so bad. Brother David.
There's a hole in the world like a great black pit, and the vermin of the world inhabit it, and its morals aren't worth what a pig could spit, and it goes by the name of Washington. Feliz Cinco de Mayo, hermana, te adoro.
Oh, igualmente.
Okay, in descending order of importance, the chat room has asked me to tell you that they love you, and they do. And to them I say, as ever, tell 10 friends you know that don't listen to go to the YouTube page and like and subscribe, and then to randyrhodes.com and buy a Think podcast.
I keep forgetting to do this, but the last time I did it, I asked people to please subscribe who were, imbibing, but forgot to press the little red button.
Right.
And like 600-700 people did do it. So please do that. Just subscribe. And then all that it's free. It's totally, utterly free to subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Yes.
All you have to do is Google Randi Rhodes YouTube, and then you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a subscribe to our YouTube icon. It's very small because that's all that YouTube allows is the very small. And then you click on that. It's free. All that happens is we will then be able to notify you every time we go live. And if you don't want to be part of it, you just click the X and you're out. But if you want to be part of it, you click on the thing that notifies you Randi Rhodes is now live, and you come on in.
It couldn't be easier.
Oh, that's pretty. It doesn't match my outfit, though.
So here's my day yesterday. As I was saying to the Howard, I got up at an insane o'clock. Thank you, Stephanie Miller, for that term, because it applies. And I get to the break room at, basically the marketplace, and there is he whom I refuse to name because of the time difference, announcing his essentially unconstitutional executive order, basically allowing ministers to, incite whatever.
Oh, wait. I have breaking news. Breaking news, everybody. Breaking news.
Please.
Okay, check this out. You're going to love this. This is my little gift to you for Cinco de Mayo. Okay, check this out. So, yes, yesterday he apparently signed some executive order that was going to allow pastors who have never asked for this and have never been sued for this and have never lost their tax-exempt status for this, but giving pastors the right to not just tend to your spiritual, but to tend to your political side, okay? Well, check this out. The ACLU, of course, was at the ready, and they were going to sue because this does, it would have had an effect on the separation of church and state, like render unto God what is God's, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. It's in Matthew. Okay. Okay. The ACLU, when they went to file the case, looked at the executive order, which said absolutely nothing, enforceable, nothing at all. It was a piece of garbage, had absolutely no effect in law, didn't do one thing to allow anybody to do anything any different than they were already doing. And so they dropped the case because there was no case, because that piece of paper he signed yesterday, worthless.
Worthless. It was shiny, flashing object, distraction, faction to keep what's going on allegedly in Virginia with grand juries and investigations off the news.
And next week is going to be a Lollapalooza. Yes, Monday, Sally Yates will, testify at the Senate.
I'm living for this.
Oh, and she is going to make Mike Pence look like such a liar. Everything to do with Flynn, she knows. She warned them. She told them. There were letters.
And they fired her.
They didn't fire her for that. They fired her because she would not defend the Muslim ban in court.
That's right.
Because that was unconstitutional.
The point was she had laid her groundwork for that already by telling the truth.
Well, she will be testifying on Monday. It's going to be a wowzer week next week. Really, really good. So,
I'll be glued to C-SPAN.
Yeah, but feel really good about this stupid executive order. Now,
it's the sunlight, Randy. It's the disinfecting sunlight that shows them for what they are, and it is going to backfire in their face. Beyond the old woman said it: be calmly vengeful, not in seeking vengeance, but move forward and know that we're in the right and we are winning.
Yes, we are winning. There's no question. And this thing is dead in the House. It's never going to see the light of day. The executive order yesterday was supposed to allow for businesses to discriminate against LGBT and a whole host of things. They pared it down to just allowing pastors to endorse candidates and to run political operations. And when they looked at it, when the ACLU looked at it, they said there's nothing in this that is remotely, doing any. There's
nothing to enforce or to try to strike down. There's nothing.
Nothing.
It's shiny object.
Exactly.
There is nobody behind the curtain.
So
I love you.
I love you too. I was just saying, be grateful that they're very sloppy.
Exactly. And they're showing themselves up, and there are still more of us than there are of them.
Yeah.
And vive la resistance. Gorgeous hazmat suits for everybody.
Hazmat suits. Chris in Brooklyn.
Shabbat shalom, sister.
Igual.
Details. You missed a detail before. The $4,000 tax credit you were speaking of?
Yes.
If you live in a sanctuary city, you're not going to get the federal equivalent of that. Isn't that
right?
Devious? Yeah.
What section is that? Do you know?
All I know is I read about it yesterday. I can't tell you the number, but the thing is, basically, if you live in a sanctuary city, that's their way of telling you it's really perfect that you should vote out those bastard liberals. Because it's part of our entire agenda. You want your health care? Vote these bastards out.
But didn't the court just find that you could not penalize sanctuary cities by? Oh, that's executive order. Right.
Well, what does anything matter in Trump land, my dear?
I know.
Now let's create a new thing for the Randi Rhodes Show.
All right.
Better know a deplorable. There's a lady named Seema Verma.
Seema Verman.
Verma. Yes.
Seema Verma.
And she's in charge of the CMS, which is the Commission on Medicaid and Medicare Services.
Mm-hmm.
And this lady, she has a company called SVC, which is basically aligned with medical health care things across states. And she's one of the Pence people. She did the job in Pence. It was like in 2008, she worked with the Democrat governor to bring along what would be the affordable health care plan for Indiana. And then under Mike Pence, they came along with the line that, okay, what we're going to do with health care here is that you want to be on Medicaid, you need a health savings account.
How did you do that?
I know. That's the whole thing, right. I'm on Medicaid, so I make less than $16,000 a year.
Right.
I'm going to have all this excess capital.
And let me tell you something. Here's the catch-22. If you had excess capital, you wouldn't qualify for Medicaid.
That's part of the idea.
Oh.
Now, we wonder, where does this... Yeah, so like I just said, she came from Indiana. She had other plans and other places that she was working. She was working with all the data people, like HP and whatever. So there's a little cloud of suspicion over like the way she was making money while planning these ACA-related Obamacare health care plans for the state.
Right.
And there is this little codicil called the 1115 where they can opt out of what would be covered by the ACA going forward. And, they could tailor it for their red states like Kentucky and Maine and good old,
Alabama.
Mike Pence, Indiana, Alabama, you name it. So this woman yesterday is just like, I had no idea this woman existed. But it's just like within moments of her, like, I mean, the ACHA.
Yes.
Which
Trumpcare.
They don't want to call it Trumpcare.
That's why we call it Trumpcare.
They want to call it Ryan Care.
No.
I mean, I'm kind of along the lines of like Trump don't care, Trump no care. We got to work this one out because, I mean, they wanted to tag Obama with something that worked. We can tag him with something that don't work.
It don't work.
But it's just like, you got to wonder. It's just like these people.
I know. Because I've said this for years. They're after the last tranches of money. This is like we've become a cash cow for oligarchs, just like Russia. It's the same MO, okay? There are still these big, deposits of money that are real money because we really do pay into these real things and there's real money there. They're just treasury notes, which are real money. And they want that money and they're going to siphon off that money like milking a cow, okay? They're just going to go and they're going to squeeze out all the money and they're going to give it to themselves. They're going to give it to their enterprises. They're going to give it to the rich people, the oligarchs. They're going to get, this is Trump, the tax plan is like a wet dream for Donald Trump. He would end up paying zero tax.
Yeah, and according to her press release that she sent out yesterday,
I saw it.
It's only going to help mothers. I think it's a great first step in achieving our goal.
Today is the first of what I am confident will be many historic days ahead as we move toward patient-centered health care instead of government-centered health care.
But we'll help the infirm, the blind, the aged, and the disabled.
She is Vermin. She is. Just call her Seema Verma. That's who she is.
Hey,
all right.
Happy weekend. Love you a long time.
Me too. Bye. These people are devious, but like I said, they're cruel. They're cruel. There's a certain brilliance in being deviant, but not cruel.
commercial-free, on-demand, whenever, wherever listening experience. Visit randyrhodes.com for your personal premium podcast today.
Buy a stinking podcast. Well, the Trump administration suffered a humiliating defeat on health care. So next up, the Trump economic plan. Are you familiar with a game called Three Card Monte? All you got to do is find Trump's amazing economic plan under the cup, and you win. Where is it? Is it over here? No. Is it over there? No. It must be over here. No. Unfortunately, like so many things, Trump, it's just another big con job. So when it comes to your own financial future, don't play the game. Protect your wealth. Use a timeless, tried and true investment like gold. Call my friends at ITM Trading at 1-888-OWN-GOLD and get a free gold kit and learn how to diversify your investment portfolio with precious metals. Call ITM Trading today at 1-888-OWN-GOLD for guidance from their precious metals experts. They have an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, and they've helped tens of thousands of people buy gold and silver coins and bars. Let them help you too. Call 1-888-OWN-GOLD, 1-888-OWN-GOLD.
Nuclear provocation update. It is not just North Korea who can get in on this act. It was an American nuclear weapons test that caused a cloud over Nevada this March, and it didn't take a satellite to see the dust rise. The March 14th test was the first in a new series. U.S. weapons makers are manufacturing a new nuclear bomb, a replacement for 4 bombs already in our nuclear arsenal. The B-6112 is estimated to be ready for use in 2020. The first in a 3-year series of its tests began this March at Sandia National Labs, a wholly owned subsidiary of the Lockheed Martin Corporation. Reading from the Sandia Lockheed press release, quote, "Test day dawned cloudless and wind-free." While observers watched from a tower and more via live video stream, a couple of F-16C jets rose from Nellis Air Force Base near Las Vegas and soared over the 280 miles of the Tonopah Range. Those watching from the tower of the Test Range Operations Center felt excitement and pleasure, they said, that it all worked out as they expected. The only hitch, apparently, was a herd of wild horses, who at one point had to be rounded up and headed away from the test site. It is great, they said, to see all things come together: the weapon design, the test preparation, the aircraft, and the people who make it all happen. Everyone involved is supposedly happily hoping that future tests go just as well. The first version of the B-6112 is, as I said, estimated to be ready for use in 2020. That gives everyone a chance to do a lot more tests. It just raises one little question. If North Korean nuclear tests are provocations justifying bombing by foreign powers, what do you think American nuclear tests are? Or to put it more prosaically, who do we think we are? For those living in glass houses, nuclear bombs are one dumb thing to throw around. I'm Laura Flanders. You can write to me, Laura, L-A-U-R-A, at lauraflanders.com, and tell me what you think. You can also sign up for our free podcast and find all of the archives of this program at our website. That's lauraflanders.com. And thanks.
Tales of American Political History with Clinton Porter Hackney.
We've been talking about the Soviet missile downing of Gary Powers and his U-2 spy plane on May 1st, 1960. You would think that if you loved aeronautics and were a good pilot and managed to survive being shot down by a surface-to-air missile, that you're just a person who's blessed. But that was not the case for Gary Powers. After spending much of his adult life dealing with the U-2 event, spending time in Russian prison, being criticized for some of his actions, writing a book about it, and dealing with the notoriety, he found himself, at age 47, flying helicopters for KNBC News Channel 4 in Los Angeles. On August 1st, 1977, after covering brush fires from his chopper and returning to report on traffic, he crashed and perished from lack of fuel just short of Burbank Airport. Powers is buried in Arlington National Cemetery. This is Clinton Porter.
All things Randy at randyrhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randi Rhodes Show.
Every Republican wants to do a big number on Social Security. They want to do it on Medicare. They want to do it on Medicaid. And we can't do that. And it's not fair to the people that have been paying in for years, and now all of a sudden they want to be cut.
And I'm not going to cut Medicare or Medicaid. Every other Republican's going to cut. And even if they wouldn't, they don't know what to do because they don't know where the money is. I do. I do.
Save Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security without cuts. Have to do it. And then we have to take care of the people that can't take care of themselves, and I will do that through a different system.
Everybody's got to be covered. This is an un-Republican thing for me to say because a lot of times they say, no, the lower 25%, they can't afford private. But
universal health care.
I am going to take care of everybody. I don't care if it costs me votes or not.
By some estimates, 10 million people could lose their coverage. Is that acceptable to you?
Look, what matters is that we're lowering the cost of health care and giving people access to affordable health care plans.
Kind of a hard sell to say, yeah, we're going to repeal Obamacare, but we're going to send more money to the people who've already gotten the richest over the last 10 years. I mean, that's what this does, no? I'm not a leftist, it's just that's true.
I'm not that concerned about it because we said we were going to repeal all the Obamacare taxes. This is one of the Obamacare taxes. The goal of health care reform is people get access to affordable coverage. Universal access, access. This is part of replacing Obamacare with a system that works to give everybody universal access to affordable coverage.
It's not just about coverage. It's about access to care. It's about access to be able to see your doctors.
You're worried about giving people coverage. And it's almost as if,
The president said he wanted everyone covered, sir. The president said that.
He wants everybody to get care.
If you create a system that's accessible for everybody and you provide the financial feasibility for everybody to get coverage, that we have a great opportunity to increase coverage.
Are we providing a system where people have access to health insurance if they choose to do so? And the answer is yes.
Expand choices, increase competition, and ensure health care access for all Americans. The House plan will expand choice, lower costs, and ensure health care access for all. We're negotiating with everybody. It's a big, fat, beautiful negotiation.
It needed that musical out. It needed the stinger. What a bunch of bull crap. And what happens when the CBO does score this bill? What will that do to the Senate debate? I mean, Trump and the House Republicans were literally celebrating a win before the score was announced. It's like, why were they spiking the ball? They're not even anywhere near the end zone. This game is just starting, baby. The Senate is going to just like eviscerate everything that was in this thing. It's just amazing. And you see HHS Secretary in there, Tom Price, he was quick to point out that this is just the first step. Right, because we're not over the cliff yet. Freaking lemmings out there got their little nose up the guy's, little bunda there. The big Trump's bunda. That's a pre-existing condition, don't you think? The size of that ass. That thing, it sits beside him. We should name it. I want to put ashtrays on it. I'm going to put my drink on it tonight. I don't even know what I'm drinking tonight. I'm excited, though. I'm excited to drink. Watch a little more Handmaid's Tale, which is now a reality TV show, Handmaid's Tale. Oh, God. And, this mission accomplished moment that they had yesterday, I mean, he was surrounded by, 50-year-old white men. At least when Bush was on the aircraft carrier, there was some diversity in the guys that were on the ship right off of the coast of San Diego trying to turn the ship so that it looked like he was somewhere in the the Gulf of Hormuz. No, he was in San Diego. And remember how the sun was setting? I mean, at least they knew how to plan themselves a photo op. That mission accomplished moment was really classic. I just pray to God that the clips of that Rose Garden thing yesterday, that spiking of the ball, in the first quarter after the second play, because that's what that was, somehow comes back to haunt them the way that the mission accomplished moment has haunted the Bush. And the best thing I saw all week, who was it? Will Ferrell impersonating George Bush, going, "How do you like me now?" He looks pretty good. All right, where are we going here? Roberta in White Salmon, Washington. Wow. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm here, ready. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm a fan. Thank you so much, and I so appreciate your fervor and your
brilliance,
righteous indignation. I wish I could express it more here myself.
My lack of cruelty, at least when you're with you, where you're concerned. I mean, my life is becoming completely unmanageable. I will say, but I'm doing it all for you. So,
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, you said earlier that the answer to our healthcare problems was for the government to pay the promised money to offset subsidies and the high risk corridors and stuff.
That's right.
But I have to say that the real answer is to upgrade the Affordable Care Act to a single-payer health care for all. I'm talking about a platinum program for the U.S., citizens of the U.S.
Well, you see how you're giggling like a schoolgirl? That's because we have Republicans, they will never raise the taxes necessary to actually create a program like that. Medicare for all would be great. No administrative very low administrative costs. Good reimbursements for hospitals, doctors. Great world-class health care for every single American. When you need it, it's there. When you don't need it, just know somebody else does. You know what I mean? No, they won't.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they will never do that. So that's why the first step should be, now that we know that, Trump says he knows where the money is, and apparently Upton and Billy Long, who is not long, he's wide, knows where he knows where the money is, right? So now that they know where the money is, and we've got $220 billion that we collect with these mandate payments, right, with the little penalties, and we have $8 billion extra dollars, that's $208 billion, they can certainly pay these risk corridor payments, and guess what would happen? All these healthcare providers would come racing back to the exchange, lower your premiums. You'd get the same 10 essential benefits, no pre-existing condition exclusion, and everybody would be happy, at least until we could elect ourselves a new president and Congress.
Absolutely. In the interim, that would work. Just let everything remain the same. But, health care for all.
But it wouldn't remain the same. I mean, premiums would really come down because they would be getting the risk corridor payments, and they wouldn't have to pass the cost on to you. So that would lower premiums. It would give people more choices. It would actually create less deductibles. It would, and keep that $7 billion that we still give to people to help them pay for those deductibles, because there's another $7 billion. So we already know that there's at least $220, 30, $40 billion.
Okay.
Yeah, it's there. And nobody has to, no taxes get raised. Everything stays the same. Don't have to pass any additional legislation. You just have to appropriate the money. That would be the legislation that needed to be passed. Now, I will tell you that when Marco Rubio thunk up this idea of stiffing the risk corridor payments, of stiffing people on their insurance companies on the risk corridor payments, we thought about it for a little while, and Congress, the Senate, actually tried to reappropriate that money. And guess what? Ted Cruz said that any money that was appropriated, he introduced a piece of legislation. It's called the slush fund something or other, that if any money was appropriated, he would declare it a slush fund, and it would never make its way to the insurance carriers who were promised this money. Who were promised this money. So, if you want to see why high-risk pools don't work, just go to randyrhodes.com. In the homework section, it's really good today. It's very, very informative. I mean, I picked the clearest, best articles that I could find for you to see. Now, the only thing that's missing that I relied on today to do the show, that I will probably include, I don't know how geeky you want to get. I don't know. Some of you people, you love the real geek chic stuff. Me too. I love it. Because I don't have opioid-induced constipation. I have a little IBS-D. So I'm in there all the time. You know what I mean? And I take these lawsuits with me and I read them. Just the decisions, really. You don't have to read, every motion. Just read the decision. And there's 3 about these risk corridor payments. And there is this one that said, there is no implied contract here. None, because they didn't appropriate the money. That should tell you everything you need to know about how easily this is fixed. And then there are 2 others that I found, 2 other lawsuits that I didn't include in the homework today that say that the judges have found, oh, yeah, they're owed this money. So somewhere along the line, we're going to pay. We might as well pay and get something for it. Do you see what I mean? Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. Rob in Mesa, Arizona.
Hey, Randy.
Hi.
Great to talk to you. I'll make this quick.
All right.
We're not talking about trying to get costs down, and so a couple of ideas would be basically to make all health insurance nonprofit would be a start, but since that's a long shot, when involve Wall Street, yeah. The other ideas, which are a little more minor, is just every time you go into a doctor visit or a hospital visit, you get a line item of everything they're charging for. Because a lot of people just are unaware of how much things cost and what they're being charged for. I mean, we have case in point.
It's true. I agree with you. It's true, but I don't think it would affect anything that I chose for myself to do when I had to do something for myself to get myself well. For instance, there was this one time that I went into emergency care. I went into the emergency room because I had chest pains, right? And so immediately, if you go in there with chest pain, they're admitting you. It just happens. Okay, it goes like that. And then you get these enzyme tests all night because there's a certain enzyme that is in your blood if you've had a heart attack and da-da-da. And then the next morning, before they discharge you, when they give you a nuclear stress test, okay? And then after that's completed, they say, okay, here's what's wrong with you. You have chondritis. You know what chondritis is? It's when the cartilage that holds your little rib cage together gets a little inflamed. It causes that chest pain. You know what the cure for that is?
Ibuprofen.
Yeah. It's Tylenol. It's Tylenol. All right. So then I get the bill. Do you know what the bill was for that?
Probably in the thousands.
$17,000 just for the stress test.
Holy cow!
Now I wouldn't. They won't discharge you without it. So you can't really pick and choose because if you allow yourself to be discharged before they say that you're dischargeable, then you don't get any insurance money. Do you know what I mean? The insurance company won't cover. So it's not going to change a whole hell of a lot knowing what things cost.
Okay, one last idea.
Yeah.
They got to do away with this in-network, out-of-network stuff. When I go into a hospital or something, I look and I basically write on it, I will not pay for anything out-of-network. Yeah. And I sign and date it.
Yeah.
And every time I get a bill that they, because what happens now is you go into the hospital, you say, are you in-network? And they say yes. And then everyone you meet after that initial visit is out-of-network.
Yeah, it is interesting.
It's like a scam. Okay.
Yes.
Hey, the last thing I had is you were looking for a name to call it.
Yes.
I think you could call just about any Trump legislation a Trump grab legislation.
Oh, there is a really good political cartoon. I forget. I look at so many sites. It might be in the Washington Post or I think it's Tom Tolles, okay? And he's got Trump and I guess it's Ryan. Trump with his hand up, Lady Liberty's, dress, and Ryan on the other side. And one says the P word on one side, and the other says grab.
Yeah, just any legislation, Trump grab legislation.
Trump grab. Well, this is Trump. This is Trump don't care, is what it is. So,
absolutely.
But we need to call it Trumpcare. Okay, we really do. We need to brand it, just like Nancy Pelosi said yesterday. Tattoo it on their forehead in day glow, so that even at night you can see them coming. The people that are the most bizarrely cruel people I have ever seen in public service in 115 Congresses. Well, I shouldn't say that because I think the slave owner ones, I think they were pretty freaking evil too. But they're rotten in hell. So let's just say currently serving.
This is the top of the hour from the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn. Instead of commercials, you've got progressive news and interviews right here at the top of the hour.
Hello, Progressive Voices TuneIn listeners. I'm Casey Hobbs.
And I'm Shane Mason, and we're the hosts of Nurse Talk Radio.
Here's what we're talking about this week.
That music can only mean one thing. It's time for Healthcare in America with Donna Smith. Donna, welcome to Nurse Talk, and thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you. It's always good to be with my Nurse Talk friends, and I love my theme song, so what can I say?
So, Donna, before we get started, we just wanted to know if you could shed some light on these comments from the press secretary.
It would be really great if the nitpickers could try to see the big picture and didn't solely focus on every little slur and lie I say. That'd be nice. And P.S., like you also know, I am sensitive to the fact that they were sent there on trains, but hey, at least they didn't have to fly United. Am I right?
Without comedy, Donna, what would we do? I mean, really.
I have no idea.
And speaking of comedy, Donna, let's first talk about the coming week and what the Republicans have planned for their third attempt to replace Obamacare and run across the finish line of the 100-day mark. What are you hearing, and can we count on Democrats to hold the line?
Well, yeah. I mean, we're hearing even crazier things now about what I call a Trump-Publican care, so that we don't ever let the Republicans off the hook for their standard-bearer, Trump, and what he's doing. The reality is the plan that they're now trying to negotiate around is even crueler than what they tried the first couple of times. And they really are going after this time this idea, this community rating idea, which would really hit at the heart of those people who have been protected by no charging of higher rates to people with pre-existing health conditions. I read a piece this week that the Kaiser Family Foundation put out that was just terrifying, in that it said that if states were to actually take the federal government up on this Republican plan to do away with community rating, that some people could end up seeing their insurance premiums go up not 100%, not 500%, but literally over 1,000%, very quickly. And it's just a ridiculous thing. I think that Trump is so anxious to have himself a win of any kind that it almost is inconsequential to him what happens and what that plan looks like. That's the political reality we face right now, so none of us can let the pressure off.
So, Donna, we've had many conversations about a single-payer health care on this show. Let's talk about H.R. 676, or the United States National Health Care Act.
Well, that's something I'm really pleased to talk about, and we are seeing a tremendous increase in the number of co-sponsors on